Okay, so here's our virtual days lesson number 1. We're going to be dealing with what your book calls the percent proportion. So we're reading here in a percent proportion. So just to review, proportion is when a fraction is equal to another fraction. Two fractions are equal to each other. We call that a proportion. We did that right before Christmas break. And remember, when we have two fractions that are equal to each other, the way we solve that is by cross multiplying and setting those two values equal to each other. So this is going to be a percent proportion, which means one of the numbers we're going to be dealing with is going to be a percent. One ratio or fraction compares part of a quantity to the whole quantity. The other ratio is the equivalent percent, written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So we're going to look at word problems later on. And when we look at word problems, the percent proportion, we want to think about that as being part over the whole is equal to a percent over 100. So that's going to be our formula for word problems when we have a lot of detail. So you're having part of something, and this is going to be the whole value. So for instance, if I was looking at 4 out of 5, 4 would be the part, 5 would be the whole. That's the entire amount. This is just a portion or a part of that amount. So again, let me look here at one of the word problems. So here it asks for cereal boxes. So if I have 10 cups out of 67 total cups in a cereal box, then the 10 cups is part of the whole amount, which in that case would be 67. So we'll look at this a little bit later when we get some word problems, and that may actually not be today that we're going to do that. We're going to first focus on the most simple version of this, and you'll see here are some of the example problems that what these questions look like. So what percent of 5 is 4? What number is 80% of 5? And 4 is 80% of what number? These are the kind of examples you can expect to see from this section. What I call these problems, and I think this is what they called them when I was in school, which I have not heard it called this very often anymore. I call them is over of problems. So instead of calling part of the whole, I call them is over of. This is still going to be equal to percent over 100, but this is going to be the formula we're going to be dealing with all day today. So this is what I mean by is over of. So you're going to make sure you want to have this written down so you can use it as we work problems later on. But like if I look at the first question here, what percent of 5 is 4? So in this example, I'm looking for percent, so I would call my percent X. You see the word of is connected to 5. Of 5, that means 5 is going to be my of. So I would plug in 5 for the value of. And then I've got is 4. So 4 then is the is in the problem. So I would plug in 4 here for is. So we're basically finding 4 out of 5 because 4 is part of the whole 5. But the way these problems set up, they always have those three values in it. You have a percent, you have an of, and you have an is. And you just have to identify them and then plug them into this formula. So is was 4 over of, which is 5. I'm going to set that equal to the percent. It's what I'm looking for. I don't know in that problem. So I let that be X over 100. And so now I have a proportion like we had right before Christmas. And we'll go through the steps of how to solve that proportion. But again, the main thing that we're going to be working on today is setting it up because that's what's new to you. Look at the second example. It says, what number is 80% of 5? So in this example, 80 is my percent because it is right next to percent. So now I know the percent. And then the 5 is right next to the word of. So 5 is my of value. So when I plug this into the formula here, is over of equals percent over 100. What is my is value? Well, I do not know that. That's why the question says, what number is? We're looking for is. So in the place of is, I'm going to be plugging in x over my of value is 5 equals the percent here is 80 over 100. Is how we would set up the second problem. And again, we'll go through the process of solving in just a second. And then the last one here, 4 is 80% of what number? So this time I know 4 is my is value. 4 is, and I know 80 is the percent because it's connected to the percent sign. So that means what I'm looking for is my of. I don't know what of is. Plugging those in, is, which is 4, over of, what I'm looking for, equals the percent, which is 80 over 100. So hopefully that's a good introduction to you of how we're going to be solving these problems going forward. Okay, here's our first example. What percent of $15 is $9? So again, I know I'm going to use this as an is over of problem. Is over of equals percent over 100. Now see if you can identify which values are which. So it says is $9. So $9 is going to be my is. Of $15. So 15 is going to be my of. And then it wants to know what the percent is. So that's what I'm looking for. So let that be x. And then that percent is always over 100. So I have this proportion set up using an is over of formula. Now remember, when we have a proportion, fraction equal to a fraction, cross multiply and set them equal. 15 times x is 15x. 9 times 100 is 900. Now x is being multiplied by 15, so I divide by 15 on both sides. That tells me x equals, that would be 60. So the answer is 60%. 9 is 9 is 60% of $15. Okay, I want you to pause the video here and see if you can figure out these two problems. So try to work them on your own, and then I'll work them out in just a second. So pause the video now. Okay, the first one, what percent, so I'm looking for percent, of 25 is 20. So is over of equals percent. That's what I'm looking for. I let that be x over 100. Fraction equal to a fraction. Cross multiply. 25 times x is 25x. 20 times 100 is 2,000. Now x is being multiplied by 25, so I divide by 25 on both sides. That tells me x equals 80. So 20 is 80% of 25 for the first one. The second one. So it says $12.75 is. So that's my is. What percent? That's what I'm looking for. Of 50. So 50 is my of. So I have my is value, which is $12.75, over my of value, which was 50, equals percent. That's what I'm looking for, over 100. Now again, fraction equal to a fraction, cross multiply. 50 times x is 50x. 100 times 1275 is going to be 1,275. X is multiplied by 50, so I divide by 50. That's going to tell me x is equal to, let me get my calculator here, I should have been able to do that. That's 25.5. So $12.75 is 25.5% of $50. So hopefully you've not just got in the habit of plugging in the numbers where I've been plugging them in. Hopefully you're thinking through these, doing them as is over of problems. Because so far, all three examples, we've been missing the percent. But now you look at this example, now I know the percent. It's telling me I've got 40%, and then my other number is 120. And we see 120 is connected to the of. So this time I'm missing my is. What number is? So when I plug into is over of equals percent over 100. So let me write that down again. Is over of equals percent over 100. I want to know what number is. So I'm missing the is, so it's an x. Over my of is 120 equals the percent, which is 40 out of 100. Fraction equal to a fraction, cross multiply. So that's going to give me 100 times x, which is 100x, equals 120 times 40. So 120 times 40 is 4,800. Now x is being multiplied by 100, so I divide by 100. So that tells me x equals, that would be 480. So 120 is 40% of the number 480. So now you try to work these two, pause the video, see if you can work them. Okay, what number is, so again I'm missing the is. This time I have 5% of 60. So is, I don't know, over of, which is 60, equals percent, which is 5, over 100. Fraction equal to a fraction, cross multiply. 100 times x is 100x. 60 times 5 is 300. Now x is being multiplied by 100. So I would divide by 100 on both sides. And that tells me x equals 3. So my number 3 is 5% of 60. Then the second one, I'm looking at 12 is the percentage of 85. And then is what number? So again, I'm missing the is. So when I plug in is over of is 85, equals the percent, which is 12, over 100. Cross multiply and set those equal. 100 times x is 100x. 85 times 12 is 1020. Now x is being multiplied by 100, so I divide by 100. And that tells me x equals 10.2. So yes, we can get decimal numbers sometimes. That's okay. That does not mean you did it incorrectly. So far we've been missing the percent and we've been missing our is. So these problems we're going to be missing the of. So again, let's set them up. Again, we see 18 is 25% of what number? So it's pretty easy to see 18 is my is, 25 is the percent, and then I'm looking for my of. So I'm plugging in is over of, that's what I'm looking for, equals the percent over 100. Fraction equal to a fraction, cross multiply, set those equal. 25 times x is 25x. 18 times 100 is 1800. Now x is being multiplied by 25, so I need to divide by 25 on both sides. And when I do that, that gives me x equals 72. So 18 is 25% of 72. Okay, you try these two. So pause the video, see if you can do them. Then I'll work them out. Okay, so I have 40% of what number is 26. So 40 is my percentage. 26 is the is, and I'm looking for the of. So I've got is over of equals percent over 100. Fraction equal to a fraction, cross multiply. 40 times x is 40x. 26 times 100 is 2600. Now x I want to get by itself. It's being multiplied by 40, so I'm going to divide by 40 on both sides. So it tells me x equals 65. Okay, now looking at example F, it says 84 is 75% of what number? 84 is, 75 is the percent, and then of what number? So is over of equals percent over 100. Fraction equal to a fraction, cross multiply. 75 times x is 75x. 84 times 100 is 8,400. And now I want to get x by itself. X is being multiplied by 75. So I'm going to divide by 75 on both sides. That leaves me with x on the left side. And then on the right side, plugging that into my calculator, I get x has to be 112. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. You will have some problems on Khan Academy. Make sure you read on Google Classroom. I'll tell you what the name of those problems are that go along with this lesson, and you'll want to complete that problem set.